Hey, what's up YouTube? This is the Merman Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel today with another video for you, another discussion video. And today's discussion video is going to be called the Air of Superiority. And it has to do with a little bit of the ways that I've been building decks. Now, I was thinking about why certain decks get revealed. I get very, very excited about them. And then when they finally release, I'm not excited about them anymore. And one of those decks, of course, is Time Lords. Before I even made this channel, long before any of this happened, I got into 5Ds, decided to watch 5Ds on a whim, and ended up really enjoying it and watching it to the end. One of the duels that impacted me most was the duel that Yusei had with Zone. I absolutely adored and loved all of the Time Lord cards that were released in that set. Or, in that final duel. And I was like, when this deck comes out, I'm going to build it 100%. So, fast forward here to 2018. The last 4 Time Lords are released, following the first 4 in 2018, which, of course, as you guys know, followed both Medion, the Time Lord, and Photon Shockwave, and Cephalon, the Time Lord, in the Jump set. And all of these cards were sort of released in this very interesting kind of time in the game, that the game is sort of evolved to the point where you can release Time Lords into it without having to significantly nerf them like they did in the video games. And I thought that that was really cool. And then, of course, they released the Time Lords, and we found out that, a lot of them were super easy to get, and you could easily build a Time Lord deck. It wasn't sort of like an exclusive kind of thing. You just grab the Time Lord deck, and that's that. And so the kind of exclusivity that I found took a little bit of allure out of the Time Lord deck, because I think, the funnest thing about having a boss deck or going up against people is being able to run cards and make cards work that nobody would ever think of running. To have a deck that doesn't really, run too many staples, which can run things like the advanced draw to draw you 2 cards, and you combine that together with other level 10 things in your deck, and just make a deck that has cards that nobody ever thought they would see in a real life game. And that's sort of how I played. And then when Time Lords got released, the cards were extremely easy to get. They were like almost common, so to speak, in the Battles of Legends set. So a lot of people decided to start building Time Lord decks and really making those decks. And so Time Lords, in many senses, lost that air of exclusivity that they used to have. It wasn't easy to get 3 Medions back in the day, so building a deck out of Medions for me was cool, because I was like, hey, here's this secret rare that not a lot of people know too much about, and then let's get it. But, now with Time Lords, you don't have people gasping and awing at the cards, because a lot of them already have the cards or have tried them out or have done things with them. And this is not to say that, that I'm pissed at the fact that some of these Time Lords are competitive. That's not at all what I'm saying. But rather that, there is a certain exclusivity, like, printing them all as, secret rares, for instance, or making them a little bit tougher to get to signify the type of villain that Zone was in the anime, running these, one-off cards based on mythical figures from the Hebrew texts, and, having those people represented as these, temporal machine gods is what they called them in the Japanese anime, and then having them really be a facet of a specific character. I thought that was so cool, and a very interesting style of design for those cards. But doing what they did with them, I felt like that air of exclusivity went away, and that's why I called this thing the Air of Superiority. Because it's you want to be able, when I play this game, I want to be able to surprise my opponent, and not to really necessarily beat them all the time, but to bring out a deck that they've never seen before. especially for casual players who, primarily those are who my duels cater to. For them to be able to see something they never thought they'd go up against or never thought existed, that sort of goes out the window for that. But Time Lords themselves are very, very good, and I've had a video, as you guys have seen, where I've discussed Time Lords in length as good card design. But I figured that today, discussing them in regards to how I build decks is a very interesting thing. To give you guys another example of this, I think, is the, any cards that are released in the starter decks. When these cards are revealed and released, I'm usually very excited about them, like the most recent Diablo stuff, and even the Counter Fairy stuff to some extent. All that stuff was stuff that was released in Secret Rare, in Strike of Neos for the Counter Fairies, and Force of the Breaker for not the Counter Fairies, for the Diablo stuff. And all of those, they were starter decks originally, and all of that stuff was released as Secret Rare in each of those sets. So to build a Counter Fairy deck back in 2007 or 2008 or whenever these sets were released, a Diablo's tribute deck, you had to have that kind of Air of Superiority, that ability to the thrill of the hunt, to go and hunt down all these secret rares in order to make your deck work. And I just thought it was really interesting, and even though it was a stupid move by Konami's part, printing all these starter deck cards as secret rares in this set, I still thought it was very interesting that that it is possible to build a deck that, yeah, it sucks, but is built out of entirely secret rares. You guys already know I got that secret rare deck that does suck and is built out of entirely secret rares, which still manages to get wins every now and then, and is actually a very good deck. But it's all about that kind of deck building. And when the deck building becomes so easy, you just collect a bunch of commons or rares, throw together a deck, I don't think that that's as fun. Because for me, deck building or assembling a deck is in many ways it's part of the journey. And it's by only taking the journey, you can enjoy the destination. Taking a journey, for instance, to hike 4 days through the wilderness to go and see Machu Picchu. So you hike 4 days to go through the wilderness on one of those Machu Picchu treks, only to find a fat tourist eating a burger at the top of that place, and little did you know there was a funicular up to the top of Machu Picchu. And, you could have just taken the funicular and gotten the same exact view instead of, suffering to fight and, get, for 4 days or whatever it is. And so, in that respect, I feel like part of deck building for me is wanting to go on that 4-day hike and wanting to go on that 4-day hike, but to also visit places, metaphorically, that you can only get to by doing that 4-day hike. Mermails, for instance. Or even, some of those elemental heroes, which is, I guess, an exception. But spell books. You got to do that big hike, get all of those expensive cards, track all that stuff down. It gives you the air of superiority, not necessarily over others, but to tell yourself, all right, I did this thing. I built this deck. I climbed this mountain, and now I'm here. And Time Lords being printed as commons and rares, as well as the Diablo stuff just being printed in 3 starter decks. It's all you got to do is just grab the funicular, take that thing up, and you're already there. And that, to me, takes a lot of the fun out of it. So, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I'm interested to hear what you think about it. And, I'm very interested to hear you guys' thoughts on what kind of things you'd like to see next from the channel. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit of my more rambly videos, but I you know, I felt it was like a thought that I just kind of wanted to get out to you guys and, you know, see what your opinions on it were. But guys, thanks so much for watching the video, and this has been the Mermail Master with the Teen Time Riders YouTube channel, and I'm signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.